Look at this. That could be you. If you're watching this video, I know you want to do good in seminar. I'm Riley. I'm a senior in high school. I took AP Seminar last year as a junior, and I'm here to give you some tips on how to succeed. First of all, I know there isn't a lot of online resources, especially not YouTube videos, for you guys to watch. I'm just giving you some tips that I wish someone had told me before I actually took AP Seminar. I think AP Seminar is best described as a class where you do a lot of research, a lot of writing, and then a little bit of presenting about what you researched and what you wrote. I think like the actual class itself isn't really that hard. I'd give it a 4 out of 10 on difficulty, but the actual coursework, there's a ton of stuff. So in terms of coursework, I would rate it like a 7 out of 10. But as long as you meet the deadlines, I think you'll be fine. So I think taking this class is well worth it though, because I mean, for me personally, I truly believe that AP Seminar taught me a lot more about writing than AP Lang, because it really taught me how to write academically and write professionally. And that's something that you'll be using in college, especially if you want to conduct research. And it'll be good for if you want to sound professional. And beyond writing, it's just really good skill to have to be able to research things on your own. All right, before I get into the tips, I'm going to assume that you know the abbreviations for everything like TMP, IMP, IRR, IWA, all that stuff. And yeah, I don't want to drag this intro out too long. So my first tip for you guys is about choosing a research topic. I feel like choosing a research topic for AP Seminar is probably the most important part about AP Seminar. You really want to choose a topic that you actually enjoy, like you're actually interested in, something that you actually enjoy. Because, I mean, you have to be reading a lot of research papers. And if you're reading research papers about a topic that you don't enjoy, then, I mean, obviously you're not going to want to do it. And you're just gonna get crushed by the workload. But obviously, if you have a topic that you actually enjoy doing, then you're gonna be looking forward to reading those academic papers. Like, it'll be enjoyable for you. It'll be easier to read it and really just like sit there and do the work. It'll seem less like a chore and more of something that you actually kind of enjoy doing. So definitely choose a topic that you're interested in. And when you do choose a topic, I mean, it doesn't have to be something that's super controversial. Like, so long as there's one person that's arguing against your topic, then it's like a valid topic. I mean, for example, my topic for my TMP was about child labor. I mean, like, obviously, duh, child labor is pretty bad. But obviously, since child labor still exists in this world, then surely there's people who are pro child labor. So, it's a valid topic. For your TMP though, if you don't get a topic that you aren't necessarily super interested in, it's not the end of the world. I would say if that happens to you, when you're choosing the lenses between your teammates, I would say try to choose the easiest lens possible. And what I mean by that is you want to choose like a lens that you know has a lot of information that's on it in like research papers, or like it's not a super nuanced claim, like there's only sort of one side to it, if that makes sense. So I'll give you an example. Like I said, my TMP was about child labor, right? But the lens slash perspective that I had was the health side of child labor. And I intentionally decided to choose that because I knew it'd be easy. There'd be so much information surrounding like the health aspect of child labor, because obviously gonna be tons of studies about how child labor is dangerous, and there's not gonna be a ton of people just saying, "Oh, child labor is actually great for child development and it's actually really good for your kids," and blah 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 blah. Bonus tip: do not ever choose the ethical lens, because it's really hard to find information about like ethics and stuff, because that's something that's very hard to quantify. So you're gonna struggle trying to find sources for that. All right, tip number two, kind of building off of that first tip. You definitely want to start early. I mean, the IMP is what, 1320 words, and the IWA is 2200 words. You definitely can't do that in one night sitting. I know a lot of you guys are procrastinators out there. I mean, myself included. But AP Seminar, the essays that you have to do, those aren't something that you can really do in like one night sitting the night before. Definitely work on it as soon as possible. That's what I did, and I didn't have a hard time with seminar at all. But some of my classmates from last year, some of them would actually do like all of the writing the night before, and they really struggled. And who got a 5 and who didn't, right? So definitely do pace yourself a lot. Like if you get 500 words in one sitting, 400, 300, 200, like it's all good. It's all progress towards the final goal of like getting your whole IRR or IWA out there. So that's fine. So my third tip is more about research and note-taking strategies. So obviously when you do research, you should take notes. I feel like there's an optimized way to do it. First of all, this is more for the academic papers. I know a lot of people tend to just read the abstract because they're lazy. I mean, nothing wrong with that, right? But I think the downside of that is like obviously it's not going to be super in depth. You want to read more of the research paper. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to read all of it, right? The best information that you'll get out of it is in the sections that are called results and then discussion. The results part of it just tells you about like, what the researchers found. And then the discussion part, essentially the same thing as the results, except that they kind of just say what its significance is, like why was it important? What does that mean? And I find that you can pull a lot of your quotes typically from like the discussion or conclusion section. Also, when you take notes, I feel like a lot of people tend to just like summarize what they're reading or like just summarize the source. I think something that's really optimal, I copy pasted quotes from the sources that I was reading so that I could have it for later and later use it as quotes. It just saved me a lot of time. It made it easier for me when I was writing the paper. So my fourth tip for you guys is about the actual presenting part about AP Seminar. So that is the IMP and the TMP. And the best piece of advice that I can give you is to just practice. The more that you practice, the less nervous that you'll be about your presentation. I feel like a lot of people who struggle with presenting, it all boils down to nervousness. And when I say practice, I mean, presenting by yourself, I mean, that's fine too. But I think the best thing that you can do is to present to other people. So it could just be like your friends, like in class. I would just be in like a random period, like I would be in my English period and I'd be presenting to my friends there when we had some downtime. And they were chill with it. Especially if you have friends who are also in AP Seminar, present to them because like it would make sense to them. As you present more, it'll be easier for you to memorize your lines, even if you have a script. And at the end of the day, I mean, the IMP and the TMP totaled all together is like 20.5%. So in the grand scheme of things, even if you bomb your presentations, it's not the end of the world. Because I'm sure like so long as you actually just have a completed presentation, you finish your presentation, I'm sure you'll get like 50%. And you only need like a 75% to get a 5 on AP Seminar. So, you could still do good on the other sections and still get a 5. For the oral defense, I didn't personally do it because I think it's a little bit immoral, but for your oral defense, on your presentation, you could print out a piece of paper and have the answers for every single oral defense question because they give you the questions ahead of time, so you know what questions they're going to ask. So you can just print out all what your responses are to those questions and just read off of them when your teacher asks you the oral defense questions. And it's perfectly legal. You can get max points on oral defense. I think it's a little moral, but it's perfectly fine, and it's definitely a viable strategy if being asked a question on the spot is something that's hard for you. So my fifth and last tip for you guys is about the importance of looking at College Board's past years, both papers and end of course examples. Reading past years IRRs and IWAs are very useful because I think it helps you get a good understanding of what academic writing is and what College Board is looking for when they're reading your papers. I put my IWA and my IRR in the description as well, just so that you guys can look at them. But yeah, make sure that you get a sense of what College Board is looking for. For the EOCs, I think the EOCs are definitely the easiest part about AP Seminar, but ironically enough, they're worth the most in terms of your overall score for the AP exam. And I say it's the easiest because you get tons of time to do really not that much stuff. I would say my biggest tip for you is to really practice previous year's EOCs. Once you know how the AP exam will feel for you, it'll be easier for you to actually write and manage your time as well. Just do the EOCs from previous years, and honestly, I think you'll be fine. There's tons of time. I had a whole hour to write my EOCB, which is just basically the same thing as writing a synthesis essay for AP Lang. I mean, for AP Lang, for reference, they recommend you budget 40 minutes for each essay, but for AP Seminar, they recommended a lot of time for that synthesis essay is an hour and 30 minutes. So it's really easy. I spent an hour for each, and I honestly wrote like way too much, but a lot of my classmates, when they took the exam, they all said like they had extra time left over to just do whatever. I feel like yes, they give you way too much time. Maybe they'll change in the future. I don't know. So yeah, those are my tips for you guys. I hope they found useful. I hope your AP Seminar year goes well for you. If you have any more questions, just put them in the comments. I will answer them. And good luck with taking AP Seminar. I hope you found this informational. See you later.